Hello and welcome back to Football Scrutiny. Champions League analysis again. Napoli 1, Barcelona 1. Before we get into it, don't forget to check out our games which we've previously analysed in the Champions League, starting with Borussia Dortmund against PSG, Atletico Madrid's 1-0 victory against Liverpool in the Wanda Metropolitana, and the game played in London between Tottenham and Red Bull Leipzig. Check them all out, don't forget to subscribe and turn on those post notifications so you don't miss any of our analysis in the Champions League and of course in the Premier League and La Liga. Now then, let's get into it. We can start by taking a look at the teams with Napoli's defensive shape. Napoli played with a high block in the 4-3-3, rarely used because it expanded their shape, but when they used their 8s, they pushed forward to close down Barcelona's number 8s. They looked to play more narrow to avoid being broken through the centre. In their mid-block, they switched to a 4-5-1 or a 4-1-4-1 system. Their lines started to flatten and their horizontal and vertical compactness increased dramatically. Their 8s were responsible for pressuring the ball, and it was in the first half and it was in the half spaces which made their shape look like a 4-4-2 at times. Biggest emphasis was on spatial control rather than man orientation. And then in their low block of 4-5-1, this is where they played the majority of their game against Barcelona, extremely compact vertically and horizontally. The midfield 5 allowed them to have a heavy presence and decrease the space between the lines. This forced players like Messi to drop outside of this block to try and get onto the ball. In attack then, looking at Napoli's offensive shape, building from the back, Napoli looked to build initially. They looked to separate the Barcelona front 3 and advanced midfielder from their back 4 and their centre midfielder. One way they did this was by building with their centre backs along their goalkeeper and their 6 and 8 taking up starting positions inside the box. From here their front 3 played more narrow, with Zielinski being more advanced than them. Napoli would end up looking to progress through the wide area and exploit the wide space, which led to a less dangerous transition if Barca managed to prevent them from playing out from the back. The second way Napoli looked to build was with their centre-backs alongside their goalkeeper. Now only their 6 in the box and their full-backs more narrow at the corner of the box. The midfielders took up an asymmetrical shape which more evenly distributed across the pitch. When Napoli built out from the back, their movement was very focused from inside to outside. Barcelona used man orientation higher up the field, so Napoli moved their central players into space out wide to clear the space in the middle. Napoli in their own half nearly always looked to progress wide with narrow fullbacks. If they lost the ball, they would have an easier time getting connected with their centre-backs. In the midfield third, Napoli used a lot of midfield movement and their progressions came from quick combinations in the half spaces and wide areas, but their starting position was a 4-3-3. In the offensive third, their centre-backs and defensive midfielder stayed to make the rest of the defence and create balance in front of their goalkeeper. The 8s didn't commit forward heavily and prevented Barcelona from gaining fast central transitions. The front 3 played narrow and the fullbacks would come narrow at times also. They do this to get the ball and gain access to the front 3. Napoli looked more dangerous in transitions though when Barcelona expanded their shape. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the Barcelona shape, starting with their offensive shape. Barcelona, as you expect, were playing with offensive attacking situations. Barcelona almost adopting a 2-5-1-2 at some. Barcelona almost adapting a 2-5-1-2 at times, similar to as we're seeing here. Messi often dropping deeper and affected the positioning of the 8s who had the freedom to move forward and drop deeper outside the centre-backs at times to create playing out from the back with a 3. This gave Messi more space to try and work in, especially as the Napoli defence was so compact. In the middle third, in the possession, Barcelona played with a 2-3-2-3. This came with asymmetry in multiple different areas in order to try and search for numerical superiority and attempt to get Messi the free man in between the lines. In their initial build-up, Piqué and Umtiti would drop into the area to try and receive from the goalkeeper. Busquets creating a diamond with those two centre-backs and the goalkeeper. Full-backs out wide, not too high though, and then Messi, Vidal and Griezmann further up the pitch. Looking at Barcelona's defensive shape then, Barcelona played with a 4-3-3 high block. Asymmetrical often occurred in their shape due to the man orientation style which they defended with. This worked at times, but also allowed Napoli to manipulate the space to their advantage through the use of midfield rotations into wide areas. In the mid-block, Barcelona also played with that 4-3-3 as we would expect, with Griezmann having a larger responsibility to defend the wide area, while Vidal often came inside more narrow to defend just underneath Messi. When Barcelona were pushed deep, they played with a 4-4-2. This didn't happen very often, but as we can see there, Griezmann being more responsible defensively than Vidal and Messi. Applying all of this which we've just heard into the game, we can see here that when Barcelona were attacking the low block, the centre-backs and the number 8 often had corresponding movements. In the first half, we saw the space between the lines getting very tight, making it hard for Barcelona to progress. Barcelona tried to bring their centre-backs forward, allowing their 8s to move in between the lines. Here we can see Umtiti moving forward with the ball and De Jong moving into a more attacking position. The striker, either Griezmann or Vidal, on the side of the possession, on the ball side of the pitch, would check back in between the lines, or Messi would then come across. When the centre-back did step forward with the ball, the near side 8 stepped out. Napoli's 8s were very effective and active in stepping forward and pressurising the centre-backs. It was important for these number 8 positions to close down the advancing centre-backs to try and reduce the space that they were able to pass into. With Napoli's compactness, the centre-backs moving forward, Umtiti and Piqué found it difficult to find vertical passes in between the lines. The 8s covering those passes and the deeper positions of the wide midfield and the centre-back prevented any forward diagonal passes. Also, with the defensive midfielder and wide midfield on the same side, this allowed them to be in pressing distance of any intermediate Barcelona player in between their lines. Other times when Umtiti would step forward because of the block in the centre of the pitch, Nelly always had to play the ball wide at some time. Griezmann would come across. Let's take a look at it again. Griezmann would come across. De Jong would move in between the lines, playing higher, whereas Rakitic had a slighter tendency to drop deeper and try and play out from the back. When the ball was shifted to Griezmann, De Jong between the lines, Firpo was more narrow than Griezmann in the wide area, giving them the potential to get in behind or between the lines with underlapping runs. Napoli defended this by having their fullbacks jump out and pressurise the wide area, and the wide midfielder would drop on the inside of the fullback. This put the wide midfielder in a position to track any runs. The ball was played into the half space in front of the defensive block. The interior centre midfielder was ready to jump out and pressurise the ball as well. Barcelona never attempted to generate the crosses, so the priority for Napoli was blocking passes in between the lines and not defending the area. In the second half, Barcelona changed structurally. The Barcelona number 8s positioned themselves higher to begin with. This pushed Vidal and Griezmann wider on the outsides of the fullbacks to try and stretch out the pitch. This change in structure firstly allowed Messi to have more space and more freedom to move in between the lines and into those half spaces, and it also gave Barcelona stronger connections in those wide areas, with 3 against 2 situations and 4 against 2 situations frequently occurring. On this side, when Piqué got the ball, one way Messi got involved was dropping into that half space, where Messi would be able to come inside onto his favoured left foot. Rakitic would drop to the outside of Piqué, allowing Semedo to go forward. Semedo, Vidal and Griezmann would then pin the back line. Around the ball, Messi ideally would get into the ball in space with Busquets, Piqué and Rakitic, pulling the midfield forward while Griezmann, Vidal and Semedo pushed the back line backwards. The space orientation of Napoli didn't get stretched from this too often. Messi would then have to drop deeper in front of the block, and Rakitic would try and play further forward. When this happened, the passing lanes between the lines were very hard to find, with Messi in a less dangerous position further away from goal was exactly what Napoli wanted. Looking at Barcelona's asymmetry in Napoli's mid-block. Firstly, Barcelona often used the deeper fullback to create an off-centred back 3 on the strong side of the ball. This was an attempt to pull the Napoli players forward and to try and exploit the space between the lines where Messi could find space. However, when Messi would drop to one half space, the wide forward would then shift over and maintaining their distance to continue to pin the centre back and the fullback. The Barcelona numerical superiority, a big concept in the midfield third, was looking to create 4 against 2 situations in the half spaces with Semedo deeper. Rakitic stayed on the inside of the half space, Messi on the outer part of the half space at the point of their 4-man structure. Some in-game examples then. Umtiti and De Jong here showing their relationship. De Jong starting to cheat and get higher up the pitch. This clearly shows space for Umtiti to be able to move forward and create stronger connections between the lines higher up the pitch. When playing in Napoli's defensive third, Umtiti carrying the ball forward, we can see the near side 8 on Napoli jump forward and close down the ball quickly. The key here for the number 8 of Napoli wasn't necessarily to try and win the ball back, but to try and prevent passes coming inside their structure, having a larger cover shadow, preventing those passes coming in. If he dropped off, we'd have a smaller cover shadow, passes would be more easily able to filter in between the lines to Messi and Griezmann in the structure of Napoli. And this, of course, is what made their structure look like a 4-4-2, when that number 8 jumping out from their 4-5-1 positioning, looking like a 4-4-2 system. We can also see Griezmann here occupying a slightly deeper position due to the fact that De Jong has dropped in between those lines. In the second half, this was changed when Busquets was on the ball, Rakitic and De Jong playing between the lines. Slightly onto the outer shoulder of the fullback, we can see there Griezmann and Vidal trying to pin those fullbacks backwards and therefore create extra space for De Jong and Rakitic either side of that defensive pivot from Napoli. Here we're highlighting 4 players who slightly changed their positioning, allowing for those centre midfielders to play more between the lines and move the wide forwards to connect and interact with the fullbacks. We can see here from Napoli that tight, compact defensive structure in the middle of the pitch and in front of their own box, and Vidal trying to get onto the blind side of the fullback on the opposite side of the pitch. If you like this analysis, don't forget to check out our analysis of the Champions League matches, which we already mentioned. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching, we'll see you again soon.